1931, and lasting for more than 4 decades, one man, Adolph the Baron Rupp, ruled the sidelines of Lexington, Kentucky. While collecting more victories than any coach in history, 874, Adolph Rupp made the University of Kentucky synonymous with college basketball success. In basketball-crazed Kentucky during the 30s and 40s, everyone followed Coach Rupp and the Wildcats on the radio.
My brother and I used to sit at home and listen to the Kentucky games on radio when we were little kids. And we would play along with the Cats with a coffee can and a wadded up piece of paper and shoot back and forth into each other's can as the game progressed.
Rupp's Wildcats were a disciplined, fast-breaking outfit that received plenty of national attention. In fact, all state players from across the country would travel to Lexington to try out for the team. The competition was intense, and many quality players didn't survive the cuts.
Many of the players that were cut by Coach Rupp were picked up by other schools as they left the gym and courted by especially the colleges locally. But I remember many good players that did not receive scholarships that tried out here, and one in particular was Frank Selvey. And Frank went to Furman and became the nation's leading scorer.
From such a deep talent pool, Rupp put together college basketball's first superstar team in 1948. They were called the Fabulous Five and featured All-Americans Ralph Beard, Alex Groza, and Wallace Wah-Wah Jones. In a 3-year span, the Fabulous Five won 100 games, lost but 7, and won 2 national championships. Unfortunately, the accomplishments of the Fabulous Five were permanently tarnished when Beard and Groza were indicted in the point-shaving scandals of 1951.
That team was so loved throughout the state that the reaction was disbelief that this just could not have happened to our players. And I remember Coach Rupp's statement before the scandals hit Kentucky was that no one could touch our players with a 10-foot pole.
Despite the involvement of his star players, Rupp kept on winning at Kentucky. In 1951, he collected his 3rd national championship behind the towering talents of 7-foot-tall William Spivey. 7 years later, the Baron picked up his unprecedented 4th national title when the Wildcats defeated an Elgin Baylor-led Seattle squad 84-72. In 1972, Adolph Rupp retired from coaching. After 42 seasons, the incomparable Baron's influence extended far beyond the Kentucky Bluegrass.
He was known throughout the world as the greatest coach, the winningest coach in collegiate basketball. He was the king, and he was the chief, and he was the potentate, and because it wasn't the Bluegrass way, he became the Baron of the Bluegrass.
'57 saw the emergence of Wilt Norman Chamberlain, the 7'2" sophomore center from Kansas. Nicknamed the Big Dipper, Chamberlain averaged just under 30 points per game as he led the once-beaten Jayhawks into the NCAA Finals against top-ranked North Carolina. Tar Heel coach Frank McGuire had a multi-talented team with 6'5" hotshot Lenny Rosenbluth, Joe Quigg, Bob Cunningham, Pete Brennan, and Tommy Kern. The Tar Heels entered the NCAA title game with a 31-0 record. Their dream season almost came to an end in the semifinals as they survived a triple overtime marathon against Michigan State. Just about everybody felt North Carolina was too tired to bounce back, especially since they now had to face the agile young giant from Kansas in the final. However, Carolina triple-teamed Chamberlain, and paced by the streak shooting of Rosenbluth, they led 29-22 at intermission. In the second half, Wilt finally broke free from the zone as Kansas looked to make a move for the title. To make matters worse for North Carolina, Rosenbluth fouled out with 1:45 to play and Kansas leading by 2. Only a late basket by Tar Heel senior Bob Young, his only points in the game, by the way, sent the contest into overtime at 46 apiece. The first overtime ended at 48 all. The second overtime went scoreless. Finally, in the third overtime, Carolina's Joe Quigg calmly made 2 free throws to put the Tar Heels up 54-53.
All right, it's taken out by Parker. Parker throws a long one into the left side. They feed it into Stilt, and it's tapped away from Stilt, and we win! 54-53, North Carolina did it!
Incredibly, North Carolina had won its second straight triple overtime game. The Tar Heels finished their perfect season as one of the greatest teams in the history of college basketball. They call him the Big O, and no one had ever seen a player quite like Oscar Robertson. In the late 1950s, the 6'5" Cincinnati sensation ruled the game of college basketball.
Inch for inch, pound for pound, could be the best player. Every time he stepped on the court, he gave a clinic. That meant if you watched him out there, it would be like going to a basketball clinic and spending 8 hours learning how to coach and learning how to play. What looked like an accident was not an accident. Everything that Oscar Robertson did was on purpose.
He's the one high school player that I thought could have immediately stepped right into the pros, skipped college, and been a star. Not just gone into the pros and been an ordinary player. He could have been, in my opinion, a star immediately.
Indeed, Oscar Robertson was no ordinary player. At Cincinnati, Oscar became the first person ever to collect 3 consecutive Player of the Year awards. He concluded his brilliant career averaging more than 33 points and 15 rebounds per game. Amazingly, though, he was a better passer than scorer and rebounder.
If they counted the assists as they do now, if they counted them that way in his time, they'd never break his records.
The Big O led the Bearcats to consecutive Final Four appearances in 1959 and 60. Unfortunately for Oscar, he never had a chance to play for a national championship. Both years, the Bearcats were eliminated by California in the semifinals. Nonetheless, Oscar Robertson provided college basketball with a new standard of individual excellence and forever secured his place in the history of the game.